Okay, so just a couple of quick things before we go over the vocab quiz. So after today, we have only 3 more class sessions, right? So we're going to take 2 more sessions on the God of Small Things, and then our final class meeting will be review for the final exam. So I will give you on Wednesday a set of sample essay questions like I gave you for the midterm. And I will also give you a list of vocab terms I want you to know. Now there will still be a vocab quiz this weekend. The grade will just replace your previous lowest grade. But the list that I give you will include important words that would go on this weekend's quiz anyway, right? So does anybody have any questions about the exam?
That's going to be taking place on the 9th, right? 3:30 to 5?
I believe so. Let me double check. Let me just quickly look that up.
I talked to Dr. Buchanan for my final before your class. And she said I can do my final before then. I told her I have another final afterwards.
Oh, okay. So they won't interfere with each other.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Because I asked I can do it on the day of the final, just individual. So I got to work around that. Because she wants me to look at everybody else's presentation that day. But if I'm doing an individual, I think I have to just stay after for 20 minutes or so. I don't know.
Okay.
I ask her more details on that one.
Okay. Well, anyway, we are currently scheduled for Tuesday the 9th at 3:30. So would moving that by an hour make things easier or harder for either of you? So if we did it 4:30 to 6:30 instead of 3:30 to 5:30?
I would be already on campus by then.
It really doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I'm fine either way.
Okay, so let's just, so you have your conversation with Dr. Bikina, and if you don't think you will be able to be here by 3:30, then we can do it 4:30 to 6:30 instead. Because I mean, like, if y'all don't have another exam at that time, it really doesn't matter when we do it. It's not like someone else is going to need this room. Okay, does anyone have any other questions about the exam?
And it's the same setup as midterm?
Format is going to be the same, yeah. You are going to have to answer 2 essay questions this time, and you'll be doing 10 IDs instead of 8. But otherwise the format is the same.
You'll provide us the blue book again, right?
Yeah, I'll provide you all with blue books, yeah. Because I know that they're not very expensive, but I still just think that's kind of bullshit that you all have to buy them. They don't just give them to you, so. Okay, paper is also, as we were noting before class started, coming due, right? So your annotated bibliography is going to be due Friday. Now, if you can't get an annotated bibliography done by Friday, talk to me, we'll work something out, right? Because I know that this has been a rough and weird semester for some of us. So yeah, if something is going to prevent you from getting this done on time, right? That's okay, but I can't help you if I don't know, right? So just come and talk to me first. Okay. So any questions about the paper? Or about the annotated bibliography, or everybody knows how to do an annotated bibliography, right? Do you need me to give you a sample?
Was that what you gave us the other day? Or was this just something else? No, he gave us the,
Oh, no,
those are sources.
Oh, okay, yeah, I give you one of those for every book that we read, right? So yeah, that's not an annotated bibliography, that's just, I'm just giving you the sources I consulted. Which then you can use for your paper if you want to, right? You know, you can go look up some of those sources. So in annotated bibliography, you're also giving me that little paragraph after the citation, right?
Okay.
Which explains to me, who this person is, what the source's basic argument is, and how you're going to use it, right? So yeah, so I will bring sample annotated bibliography to class on Monday, just so everybody knows what it should look like. Not Monday. Today's Monday. Wednesday. Sorry, it's been a long day. We're interviewing for a new provost, and so I just got out of that meeting. The first candidate was meeting with the College of Arts and Sciences. So yeah, good times. All right, so before we move on to other things, any questions at all about any upcoming assignments?
No.
Nope. All right, great. So let's just take a few minutes and quickly go over the vocab quiz from last time. Okay, so caste system. Tell me a little bit about this.
It's basically the social, kind of like hierarchy system mostly used in India, where
Yeah.
people are grouped based on their kind of class, their social class.
Yeah, it's this kind of like rigid and kind of very official hierarchy of social classes, right? Which dictates who you are allowed to associate with. And really, this is something I really want us to lean into today, because you may have noticed that the novel has a kind of fixation on ranking people, right? That people are always very, very, very much concerned about like where they rank in other people's affections, right? Where they rank within the family, and where they rank with their neighbors, things like that, right? Even how nations rank compared to each other. So related to this, subaltern. What does subaltern mean?
It's a social group that has been pushed to the margins of the society because of their social status.
Yes, good. It's any group that has been pushed to the margins of society because of their social status. Good. And how is this relevant? What text is it relevant to? And
It's related to the goddess Mother.
yes.
It has something to do with the caste system as well. That's why it's kind of relevant to the way.
Yeah. In fact, there's subalternism all over this novel. In fact, there are subalterns all over a lot of the things that we've read, right? So this is the kind of central concept in postcolonial theory. We'll dig more into this, particularly I think when we talk about Velutha, who we still haven't really seen much of in the novel. But he'll be he'll be much more important in the second half of the novel. Right now, they just kind of are like you catch glimpses of him now and again, right? All right, the Mill Reef Club.
That's to a small place.
Yep.
And they basically, for the preservation of the past, and they insist the old building of the library to be rebuilt. And the government refused to rebuild the old building.
Yes. What else is interesting about the Mill Reef Club in the context of Antigua? Who belongs to it?
Wealthy white men.
Yeah, it's just it's a club. It's a club for rich white people that only allows brown or black Antiguans in as servants, right? So it's a kind of model of the old colonial system in miniature, right? Maintained now as a private club. Right. Who is Father Mulligan?
That was the priest in
Mhm.
A Lot of Small Things where baby come, where she tried to seduce him.
Yeah. She tries to seduce him by doing acts of charity, right?
If she only joined just to get close to him.
Yeah, she becomes a nun.
Yep. And
She takes vows as a nun just to get closer to a celibate man whom she is sexually interested in, right?
Still can't get close to him though.
Yeah. And I think one thing I do want to point out, we've kind of seen like, baby Kochama and Margaret Kochama here. So Kochama, just so y'all know, is not a name. It's just like, Mamachi, Papachi, Baba, Amu. It refers to a family relationship. So Kochama in Malayalam just means aunt. So when they call her baby Kochama, they're basically calling her like baby auntie. Antigua.
That's, in a small place.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically where it took place.
Yeah.
That's what it was about.
Yeah.
And it means ancient in Spanish.
It means ancient in Spanish, yes, and it is a small island in the Caribbean, a former British colony that is heavily dependent on tourism. And then tourist versus native.
I know that's a small place.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have to look. Antigua, not Antigua. Kincaid concluded like tourists, they have their way of, you can tell somebody's a tourist. Like,
Sure.
like eat this, look at this, watch this, all
Uh-huh.
that. And you can tell who's a native in a small place as well.
Right.
Based on their attitude, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think what Kincaid is doing, right,
Mhm.
is she's replacing the old colonialist relationship with the colonialist or the imperialist becomes the tourist, right?
Mhm.
So you don't own the island anymore, but you act as though you do, right? You show up there and you expect to be served, and you treat the people around you as though you are superior to them, and expect them to say bring you drinks and smile at you, and to behave deferentially towards you.
Mhm.
So a lot of this for Kincaid is about, like, she frames this almost like a kind of failure to reciprocate hospitality, right? It's like, you are welcomed to this place where, by the way, you're really just kind of being snowed about everything that's actually going on. But while there, you behave boorishly and selfishly. Yay, tourism.
Disney World, still an example.
You talk about how weird Disney World is and how weird tourism is. Like, I remember the last time I went to Disney World, my wife and I, we stayed at the Royal Caribbean Hotel, actually, because they promised us a pirate ship-shaped bed.
They didn't get you, did they?
Well, they did, actually, but the weirdest thing about it was that we walk into the Royal Caribbean Hotel, and then there to greet us at the concierge stand is blonde-haired, blue-eyed Steve from Iowa, wearing a lei and a Hawaiian shirt, saying, "Hi, folks, welcome to the islands." Like, everything about it, everything about that just seemed weird and wrong.
Mm-hmm. You can tell based on somebody dress.
All right, what's an untouchable?
That's I guess it's one of the caste systems.
It is related to the caste system.
Yes.
It's outside of it. And it's kind of like
Yes.
the lowest, like,
And that's what I can't remember the church right now.
vote.
Was it Village?
Velutha,
Yeah.
yes. Velutha is, is a member of this group. And yeah, they're people who are considered outside of the caste system. And people who are in the caste system, right? People who have a caste are not supposed to touch them or to have more to do with them than they can help, right?
See the message?
And that's like another thing that is a big theme or idea in this novel, right? And I think it's kind of related to the whole ranking and the idea of the love laws, right? It's like who you can touch and who you can't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who it's acceptable to touch and who it's not acceptable to touch. All right, the hotel training school. This is in a small place by Jamaica Kincaid, yeah. And this is the
Servants to train them how to host tours and stuff like that.
exactly, yeah. And remember what a big deal she says this place is on Antigua, right? The graduation ceremony is televised, right? And everybody, fights hard to get their kids into the hotel training school. But they're being taught in the hotel training school to replicate that old colonial relationship, right? Essentially, where black Antiguans behave in a servile fashion towards white North Americans and Europeans who come there for vacations. All right, Mr. Hollick's proposition.
That was when he wanted to sleep with, with Mom,
Yeah,
in order for, Baba to keep his job.
yes. And there's kind of one important element that I think you were both missing in your answer, though, right?
He's English now?
What's that?
He's English.
He's English,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And when Amu leaves Baba as a result of this and goes home and tells her family, how do they respond?
Nobody believes her.
Yeah, nobody believes her, and why don't they believe her?
Because they don't think, like, he's the type of person, like, they're so focused with.
Yeah, they don't think an English person, right, would do that. They are so enamored of England and of Englishness, right? Right, to the point where, Baby Kochama punishes the kids if she hears them speaking Malayalam in the house. They have to speak English all the time. But yeah, because this is because Baba's boss is English, her family doesn't believe that he could have actually proposed something as horrible as what Amu says he did, right? It must have been her.
Putting it, but I didn't know it was actually an important factor.
What's that?
I was gonna put it in last, probably or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is this important?
Well, in general, whether it seems important in the moment or not, or it's better to give more information than not enough, right? And last one, the old library in St. John's. So this is also in a small place, right, Kincaid. And this is her emblem of the Antiguan government's inability to get anything constructive done, right? That the old library was damaged in an earthquake in 1975. And then 10 years later, in the mid-80s, there's still a sign on it that says repairs pending, and no repairs have been done, right? So yeah, for her, this is emblematic of the Antiguan government's inability to support anything meaningful. Okay, any questions? Great. Then let's pick back up with the God of small things. So, was there anything that y'all wanted to discuss or that y'all wanted to bring up?
Thinking of the part.
I think I probably know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
as
the
well,
part
yes.
in the at the movies with the guy.
The orange drink, lemon
Yeah, the
drink
orange
man.
drink.
Yeah.
Scared.
Yeah.
That disturbed me. Like I couldn't. Like I don't know. That was just so disturbing. And I felt like Rahel felt like, you know, their relationship with her brother. She felt what happened to him.
Yeah.
So that's why she kind of was very cautious of going up to.
Yeah, she seems to feel almost instinctively that this guy's bad news, right? And that, you know, maybe he did something to her brother. Yeah. Whereas Amu is completely clueless, right? And just thinks her children are being rude because she doesn't know.
Parents usually don't know when
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a
Mhm.
sad reality because
Yeah.
there is actually people like that.
Sure. Well, and then, you know, the guy makes a big show of being friendly and kind and generous, right? But I think, like, it's probably important as well to talk about, like what this does to Estha, right? And what the kinds of things that the orange drink, lemon drink man says to him, right? Because there's something, like if we look on page 100, right? After he's done this thing to Estha, right? He says, "Now finish your drink," he said, and affectionately squished a cheek of Estha's bottom. Tight plums and drain pipes, and beige and pointy shoes. "You mustn't waste it," he said. "Think of all the poor people who have nothing to eat or drink. You're a lucky rich boy with pocket money and a grandmother's factory to inherit. You should thank God you have no worries. Now finish your drink." So, in addition to just like the general awfulness and, you know, the general horror of what he has done to Estha, what dimension does this add to it? That he tells him to think of all the poor people who have nothing to eat or drink, lucky rich boy.
Manipulation.
What's that?
That's like manipulation.
Well, manipulation based on what, though?
I can't hear the words. I don't see right now. But
What does this suggest about his targeting of Estha, right? So, I mean, not just that Estha is, you know, a boy alone in the lobby when there's nobody else there and thus is an easy target, right?
Well, it kind of signifies that maybe he's part of a lower class and he's just trying to take advantage and make Esther feel kind of guilty for being part of the family, maybe.
Yeah, there is like almost like a class revenge kind of element to this, right? And I think that we can take this back to one of the bigger themes in the novel that we didn't really get to talk about too much last time, but I think is important to note, right? This, you know, this kind of push and pull between, you know, the big God and the small God. So let's turn back to page 20 for a second. So this binary between big God and small God sort of pops up when Rahel is thinking about her ex-husband, right? And, you know, the reason why they split up. Because he was exasperated because he didn't know, so he held her as though she was a gift, given to him in love, something still and small, unbearably precious. But when they made love, he was offended by her eyes. They behaved as though they belonged to someone else, someone watching, looking out of the window at the sea, at a boat in the river, or a passerby in the mist in a hat. He was exasperated because he didn't know what that look meant. He put it somewhere between indifference and despair. He didn't know that in some places, like the country that Rahel came from, various kinds of despair competed for primacy, and that personal despair could never be desperate enough, that something happened when personal turmoil dropped by at the wayside shrine of the vast, violent, circling, driving, ridiculous, insane, unfeasible public turmoil of a nation. That big God howled like a hot wind and demanded obeisance. Then small God, cozy and contained, private and limited, came away cauterized, laughing numbly at his own temerity. Inured by the confirmation of his own inconsequence, he became resilient and truly indifferent. Nothing mattered much. Nothing much mattered. And the less it mattered, the less it mattered. It was never important enough, because worse things had happened. In the country that she came from, poised forever between the terror of war and the horror of peace, worse things kept happening. So what's the difference here between this big God and this small God? How are these two things theorized here? What's the big God? What sorts of things are what sorts of ideas are identified with the big God? Okay.
They say like how, like a wolf.
Okay.
So like wolves are leaders of their own pack, depending if they're the alpha of the leader.
Uh-huh.
Alpha of their packs, and because they are the alphas, they demand obedience from the other pack.
Okay. Yeah, so the big God demands obeisance, right? She says, okay. The big God is something you have to pay attention to. What other kinds of ideas are associated with the big God? What kinds of problems are big God problems? Or whose problems are big God problems?
Big changing type of problems.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Does the big God seem to be concerned with anyone's personal problems or family problems?
No.
That seems like the small God thing.
Yeah, the small God is the God of your own family drama or your personal issues, right? The big God is concerned with bigger things, right? Like, community or community, nation, history, right? So even like traumas that people suffer in this novel get placed in a kind of ranking system. Anything that just happens to you personally, or just to your little family, is a small God problem, and thus has to be considered less important because worse things have happened to other people, right? Everything is relative. And that's kind of the accusation that the orange drink, lemon drink man is leveling at It's that what I did to you may have been bad, but people like you have done worse things to people like me. Right? That's why he brings up the pocket money and the rich grandmother and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that we see about the kinds of ranking systems that the novel kind of thrives on here, right, are that they breed resentment and anxiety. Right, as a kind of case in point here, Amaya, you mentioned Rahel's reaction to the orange drink, lemon drink man. And then, what's she upset about after she says that rude thing to him?
Oh, wait, so she said that to him and not their mom about the margarita? Yeah.
She says that to her mom, right? She says it right in front of the guy.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So Amu was angry with her because she's been rude to someone, right?
Yeah.
And she mentioned, like, when you are mean to somebody or something like that,
Uh-huh.
they make you love them less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what happens when you hurt people, Amu said? When you hurt people, they begin to love you less. That's what careless words do. They make people love you a little less. And then for the rest of their trip to pick up their cousin and their aunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rahel is worried that Amu doesn't love her as much anymore. And all sorts of circumstantial things like her, keeping Esta in the room with her because Esta's sick.
Mm-hmm.
And then sending her to go sleep in Uncle Chaco's room, right? She interprets these things as Amu loving her less, right? That she is sliding in the hierarchy of her mother's love. And this whole, the fact that this whole idea just kind of seems natural to her and to Estha. I think when we see their meeting with Sophie Mall at the airport, on page 144, right. Shall I tell you my list? Rahel asked Sophie Mall. If you like, Sophie Mall said. Rahel's list was an attempt to order chaos. She revised it constantly, torn forever between love and duty. It was by no means a true gauge of her feelings. First, Amu and Chaco, Rahel said. Then Mamachi, our grandmother, Esta clarified. More than your brother? Sophie Mall asked. We don't count, Rahel said. And anyway, he might change, Amu says. How do you mean? Change into what? Sophie Mall asked. Into a male chauvinist pig, Rahel said. So one thing we notice about these two kids, right? What do they tend to do with anything they hear from adults?
They repeat it.
Yeah, they just repeat it, right? They don't know what it means.
Kids do that now.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah, but again, it's sort of that these twins, right? They're 7-year-olds, right?
Oh,
And so,
that's even worse.
what's that?
Me and her was like trying to figure out what Esther's age was, and
Yeah.
he said 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
So we confirmed it.
Well, the twins, at least in the 1969 narrative, right?
Mhm.
The twins are 7 and Sophie Mole is 9, right? So they're young children. But yeah, they tend to repeat things that they hear, right? And oftentimes, they kind of experiment with language a little bit too, right? So like, when Baby Kachama tells them to watch their pronunciation, they reimagine this as pronunciation. So they break it down into 3 other smaller words that they already know, plus a nonsense syllable. And as they're doing this, right, even like, the pronunciation, right? They're also thinking about their grand aunt's history as a frustrated nun, right? So they take these English words and fiddle with them and change the sound and change the meaning. But anyway, so change into what, Sophie Mull asked? Into a male chauvinist pig, Rahel said. Very unlikely, Esta said. Anyway, after Mamachi, Velutha, and then, who's Velutha, Sophie Mull wanted to know. A man we love, Rahel said. And after Velutha, you, Rahel said. Me. What do you love me for, Sophie Mull said. Because we're first cousins, so I have to. So, this list that Rahel is giving Sophie Mull here, what is she listing? And what's the principle by which she's listing people? So Amu, Chaco, Mamachi, Velutha, Sophie Mull. What's she ranking these people by?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. By, like, her, like, because based on what she said, I said, because we're first cousins, so I have to, is it like how she views them or how she, her love for them, maybe?
Exactly, yeah. She's ranking them based on how much she loves each of them, right? And Estha doesn't count on the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, she says, we don't count, because they still seem to think of themselves almost as the same person, right? The twins don't differentiate between each other particularly well. But yeah. And they've picked this up by observing everyone else in their family, right? So, like Rahel asks, Uncle Chaco, do you love Sophie Mull the most, right? And he answers by explaining their relationship, right? She's my daughter. So, obviously, I guess he is supposed to love her most, right? And I think when she's doing this ranking or asking about these rankings, right, which I think she's probably looking for is affirmation that her mother still loves her, right? So the ironic thing is that Amu says careless words hurt, right? And her careless words in that situation about loving people less do genuinely hurt Rahel, right? Not to mention the enormous fuss that everyone in the family is now making over Sophie Mull, who is, well, let's actually maybe map out some of the ways Sophie Mull is different from the twins. So how is Sophie Mull unlike Estha and Rahel?
I don't know if it's in my head. Did they say something about like her eyes or something?
Okay.
Like her physical appearance?
Yeah, okay, yeah, her physical appearance matters here, yeah. So let's see where she first appears here. Page 137. She was taller than Esta and bigger. Her eyes were blue-gray blue. Her pale skin was the color of beach sand, but her hatted hair was a beautiful deep red brown. And yes, oh yes, she had Papachi's nose waiting inside hers. An imperial entomologist's nose within a nose. A moth lover's nose. She carried her made in England go-go bag that she loved. So what do we notice here about Sophie Mull's appearance?
She looks like an English.
Yeah, she's white, right?
Mhm.
I mean, even her father is Indian and dark-skinned, right? She has not inherited any of those traits, right? So yeah, she is, on the one hand, she is, right, English-looking, and in fact, born and raised in England, been raised primarily by an English couple, right? Joe, not her biological father, her mother's second husband, but the person she loved. Joe was the person she loved most in the world. And she carries that made in England bag. So, she's a white girl made in England with a, with an English name, right? What does this tell us about where she's going to fit into the family ranking system?
Like very high.
Yeah,
I was just about to say, like,
Yeah.
does she fit where the Mr. Hollins will be? Like, he's the boss and stuff like that.
yeah.
I feel like she will fit there because
Mhm.
English people cannot do no wrong
Yeah,
in their eyes.
even though she's Chaco's daughter, right? She's Chaco's English daughter. So at least for the time, for the 2 weeks that she will be in Ayamenem before she drowns, right? We already know from the beginning of the novel, right, that Sophie Mull is dead. But yeah, we already know that the life of this family is going to revolve around this girl, right? The way, even like the way the conversation, the way Rahel's imagination keeps playing through these things. She keeps thinking about the play that they're putting on. Welcome Home, Sophie Mull, right?
Mhm.
She's thinking of this as a performance.
It's an act.
What's that?
It's an act.
Yeah. And everybody in the family is trying to impress Sophie Mull and her mother in that first meeting, right? There's that bit where, Baby Kochama is quoting lines from The Tempest to show how much she loves Shakespeare, right? And how much she loves English culture. Right? Amu is embarrassed because Esta and Rahel aren't playing their parts, right? Or at least not playing the parts she thinks they're assigned. But there's something else that happens here as well, right? That has to do with this idea of performance, right? So this guy shows up in the airport. Right. An actor named Ador Bassi. Right. He's a comedian. And he's making a big show of dropping his things as people are watching him in the airport. Right, page 137. Right. Laughter rambled through the arrivals lounge like a sudden breeze. Ador Bassi the most popular, best-loved comedian in Malayalam cinema, had just arrived, Bombay Cochin. Burdened with a number of small, unmanageable packages and unabashed public adulation, he felt obliged to perform. He kept dropping his packages and saying, "Ende daibome, eis sahamadal." Esta laughed a high, delighted laugh. "Amu, look, Adwar Basi's dropping his things." Esta said, "He can't even carry his things." "He's doing it deliberately," Baby Kochama said in a strange new British accent. "Just ignore him." "He's a film actor," she explained to Margaret Kochama and Sophie Mall, making Adwar Basi sound like a actor who did occasionally fill. See, this is, Rahel and Esta playing around with language again, right?
Mm-hmm.
"Just trying to attract attention," Baby Kochama said, and resolutely refused to have her attention attracted. But Baby Kochama was wrong. Adwar Basi wasn't trying to attract attention. He was only trying to deserve the attention that he had already attracted.
They use that term a lot of, like, twice or so in this chapter.
Yeah, because it applies to Rahel and Esta as well, right? That, let's see, where is, Rahel's, right, page 139, right? There's this bit where, for one thing, we see just how competitive these family members are with each other, right? Where, Baby Kochama makes fun of Esta's Elvis Presley haircut for revenge, right? So how petty must someone be to make fun of a 7-year-old's hair, right? Yeah, but I mean, again, the name, her nickname in the family is Baby, right? So she is infantilized from the beginning. Yeah, she is kind of like, she's baby grandaunt. That's literally what Baby Kochama means, right? Baby auntie. But when Amu is embarrassed by Rahel's behavior, right? Hiding behind the dirty curtains and touching all of the dirty kangaroo ashtrays, which what are kangaroos doing in India anyway, right? Kangaroos are an Australian animal, but it's neither here nor there, right?
Guess they wrote it the other day.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, page 139, right? The play had gone bad, like pickle in the monsoon. And my niece, Chato said, "Where's Rahel?" He looked around and couldn't find her. Ambassador Rahel, unable to cope with seesawing changes in her life, had raveled herself like a sausage into the dirty airport curtain and wouldn't unravel. A sausage with bata sandals. "Just ignore her," Amu said. "She's just trying to attract attention." Amu too was wrong. Rahel was trying to not attract the attention that she deserved. So Adwar Basi, by behaving in the expected way, okay, I'm a comedian, I'm a clown, right? I show up at the airport, people are going to expect me to do something funny, right? He's doing that because people are already looking at him, right? He's doing that to deserve the attention he's already attracted. Whereas Rahel is trying not to attract the attention that she deserves. What do you think that means? And let's think about this in terms of, again, like the way Rahel, like in terms of Rahel's anxiety about her relationship with her mother at this point, right? Why do you think she'd be hiding behind curtains, trying not to attract attention?
Maybe because she didn't want to do anything that'll kind of cause her mom to not love her. Like,
Yeah, she's already, she doesn't want her mother's attention, right?
So she doesn't feel like she deserves it.
Well, no, it's not that she's someone that she doesn't feel like she deserves it, right? But she feels like if she keeps attracting it, right? That her mother's going to keep loving her less, right? Because she's going to keep doing things that are embarrassing. Yeah. So, yeah, it's emblematic of that anxiety that she has about her status with her mother, right? So, I do want to kind of get to as well, like in terms of this whole, like, so this is kind of Rahel thinking through her status, right? But there's a lot to do with Estah thinking through his status after the event with the orange drink, lemon drink man, right? Who, for one thing, he's afraid is going to come to Ayamenem and find him, right? Because he, basically lets the family know in no uncertain terms that he knows where that is, and he even knows where they live. But when Estah goes back into the movie, right, he's holding one of his hands away from his body, right? Page 100, right? And so behind the refreshments counter, in the Abalash Talkies Princess Circle lobby, in the hall with Carola's first 70mm cinemascope screen, Estah Ben Yaakov finished his free bottle of fizzed lemon-flavored Fear. His lemon too cold, too sweet. The fizz came up his nose. He would be given another bottle soon, for he fizzed Fear. But he didn't know that yet. He held his sticky other hand away from his body. It wasn't supposed to touch anything. So let's, again, keep this in mind in terms of these class issues and issues of touchability and untouchability, right? What you're supposed to touch, what you're not supposed to touch, right? When you're not supposed to touch something, it's because it is unclean or you are unclean, right? When Estah finished his drink, the orange drink, lemon drink man said, "Finished? Good boy." He took the empty bottle and flattened straw and sent Estah back into the sound of music. Back inside the hair oil darkness, Estah held his other hand carefully, upwards as though he was holding an imagined orange. He slid past the audience, their legs moving this way and that, past baby Kochama, past Rahel, still tilted back, past Amu, still annoyed. Estah sat down, still holding his sticky orange. And there was Baron von Claptrap, Christopher Plummer, arrogant, hard-hearted, with a mouth like a slit, and a steel shrill police whistle. A captain with 7 children, clean children like a packet of peppermints. He pretended not to love them, but he did. He loved them. He loved her, Julie Andrews. She loved him. They loved the children. The children loved them. They all loved each other. They were clean, white children, and their beds were soft with eider downs. The house they lived in had a lake and gardens, a wide staircase, white doors and windows, and curtains with flowers. The clean white children, even the big ones, were scared of the thunder. To comfort them, Julie Andrews put them all into her clean bed and sang them a clean song about a few of her favorite things. These were a few of her favorite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings, bright copper kettles, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, etc. So what do you notice, like, what's the focus of Estah's thoughts here? What word or idea does he keep coming back to?
Clean children.
Clean.
Clean, yeah. Right, he's fixated on how clean everything is. Why do you think that is? Why this fixation on being clean?
He doesn't see himself as being clean anymore because he's been tainted with something he's not supposed to touch.
Yeah, he feels polluted now, right? And there are consequences for this. Right, remember, like, to be polluted, right? To be unclean is to be untouchable. And then, in the minds of certain two egg twin members of the audience in Abalash Talkies, some questions arose that needed answers. Did Baron von Claptrap shiver his leg? He did not. Did Baron von Claptrap blow spit bubbles? Did he? He did most certainly not. Did he gobble? He did not. Oh, Baron von Trapp, could you love the little fellow with the orange in the smelly auditorium? He's just held the orange drink, lemon drink man Susu in his hand, but could you love him still? And his twin sister? Tilting upwards with her fountain in a loving Tokyo, could you love her too? Baron von Trapp had some questions of his own. Are they clean white children? No, but Sophie Mall is. Do they blow spit bubbles? Yes, but Sophie Mall doesn't. Do they shiver their legs like clerks? Yes, but Sophie Mall doesn't. Have they either or both ever held stranger susus? Yes, but Sophie Mall hasn't. Then I'm sorry, Baron von Claptrap said. It's out of the question. I cannot love them. I cannot be their Baba. Oh no. Baron von Claptrap couldn't. So what's going on here? What's that?
Is he having a conversation with himself or with actual Baron von Claptrap?
Well, Baron von Trapp is the character in the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're watching The Sound of Music, and they're watching Christopher Plummer and Julie Andrews sing songs and have these loving this loving but worldly relationship with all of these clean white children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's this line of questioning that Esta enters into by the end of this here? First off, what's it a reminder of about these two kids on page 102? When Baron von Claptrap says, it's out of the question, I cannot love them, I cannot be their Baba. What does it remind us of about these kids? What do they not have?
They don't have that Baba, they're dead.
Yeah, that they're not with their father. Yeah, these are fatherless children, and they're looking for a substitute adult male figure, right? And they're looking up at Baron von Trapp on the screen and thinking about would Baron von Trapp be our dad, right? In the way 7-year-olds fantasize about these sorts of things, right? But why can't Baron von Trapp be their Baba? Why would he reject them? What's wrong with them?
They're not clean.
They're not clean, yeah.
Sophie Mall is.
But Sophie Mall is, yeah. So even before they've met her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially right now after this incident, Esta is comparing himself and his sister with Sophie Mall, right? All of this effort is being made to welcome Sophie Mall. Sophie Mall is special in all of these ways that we are not, right? Sophie Mall, also arguably a fatherless child. Can be Baron von Trapp's daughter. We can't. And what word do you notice Esta keeps attaching to the word clean? Are these just clean children?
Are they clean white children?
They're clean white children, yeah. Like Sophie Mall. was one. Oh, and there's just kind of a related issue here with language, right? So this idea of broken families kind of being so prevalent here, right? That, you know, Estad and Rahel being separated from their father and then being separated from each other, their mother dying so young, Chaco having been separated from his daughter and his ex-wife, right? Rahel then being separated from her husband when she runs into Comrade Pillai, the communist printer, back in the village. He asks about her husband, and she says she's divorced. And you notice how he pronounces divorced back to her?
Divorce.
Yeah, divorced. Right, page 124. Right, Maul's husband, he wanted to know, hasn't come. Any photos? No. Name? Larry. Lawrence. Ooh, or Lawrence. Comrade Pillai nodded as though he agreed with it. As though given a choice, it would have been the very one he would have picked. Any issues? No, Rahel said. Still in planning stages, I suppose, or expecting? No. One is must. Boy, girl, anyone, Comrade Pillai said. Two is, of course, your choice. We're divorced. Rahel hoped to shock him into silence. Divorced. His voice rose to such a high register that it cracked on the question mark. He even pronounced the word as though it were a form of death. And what's, you know, like, I don't think we necessarily have to unpack what this means yet, but I want us to be thinking about this association that's being drawn here, right? Between divorce, separation, and death. And where there are other places, you know, where we might apply this, right? You know, other, you know, as the novel tends to put it, right? Holes in the universe, right? When someone or something dies, it's described as leaving, that person shaped hole in the universe, right? Like, you know, Joe, Margaret Kachama's second husband, is, you know, he's left a Joe-shaped hole in the universe. As, you know, like there was a presence there, and now there's just nothing, right? All right, so I think that should probably do it for today. Do either of you have any questions about anything we just talked about?
No.
Okay, well, I'll give you the guide questions for next time then. Just, you know, keep thinking along similar lines as you read the rest of this. Right, so, you know, ranking, cleanliness, touchability, untouchability, big God versus small God, right? These are the kind of like the large animating ideas.